Welcome back to the Cutty and Govy Show. We're on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Apple. We're in our new fabulous studio here where you can see our great set. That's Cutty and Govy. And Govy and I are both in sweatshirts today because it's freezing down here in Florida. This morning on my way to the gym, it was 59 degrees, and right now it's just starting to warm up. So here we are back for another week, and we want to start our show with a couple new segments since it's been so successful on our Govy picks for football, college, and pro. He's going to regale us with how he did last week, which was not as good as the other 3 weeks.
No, but it was a little fluky. I had Colorado. And
that was a shitty game.
They were winning.
Oh,
they were winning
God.
29-0 at the half. Should have been 33, and it was the largest comeback in Stanford history, and it was the biggest loss in Colorado history that they had to lead. So that was kind of fluky that I lost that. I almost put that in the win column, but being from Philadelphia, I don't count anything until it happens. I had a really bad pick. I had Louisville over Pitt, and they didn't cover. But I had the Detroit Lions, and they covered and they won. So that was good. And
so what's it look like
and
for
this week? This week I got.
Oh, wait a second! Don't you owe me some money from last? We'll get into that.
I do. That's another thing. I'll get into that.
Right.
That's a politics.
Political bet.
But this week, I like Tennessee +8 over Alabama. Alabama is
really?
Yeah, they're every week they barely hang on. They're not the same. They got a crappy quarterback, and I think they're ready for a loss. I like West Virginia over Oklahoma State -3.5.
Oh, you're plucking that from wherever you're getting.
And
that
I got
one.
another one just because it's for the military. I like Air Force over the Navy -10.5.
Shoo.
Yeah, I like.
I don't even know where you're finding these teams.
And then for the NFL, because
let's see the NFL.
I like San Francisco -6.5 over the Vikings.
Okay, San Fran.
I like the Browns -2.5 over Indy.
Right.
And I like Washington -2 over the New York Giants. They're my picks.
Well, Giants suck.
Well, they did okay last. They but they do stink.
Yeah, they do stink. I like that last bet.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
like where's the game being played?
I believe it's being played in New York.
All right. And then of course we have the Phillies. The Phillies are red hot. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening in Philadelphia right now. They're getting ready to tear down the rest of Walnut Street if they win.
You know what's crazy? Not only do they have a home field advantage with Citizens Bank Park and everything, but they're on a collision course right now to play the Texas Rangers, and the Texas Rangers are from Arlington, Dallas area. Wouldn't it be kind of crazy that you could have a World Series with Dallas and Philadelphia in the World Series, and then during a week later is the Dallas Cowboys-Eagles game at the link? I mean, Philadelphia fans are just brought up with Dallas sucks. I mean, could you imagine now you got baseball?
Yeah, this is terrific for the Phillies. I mean, they have Bryce Harper. Their pitching's good. I would love to see them.
They're a fun team.
Fun team.
People like them. I don't care if you're from New York. They're a team that people get behind, and you just like the whole atmosphere that they bring.
And they've had some really bad calls this year. Some really nasty things happen to them. But look, hopefully they'll come out ahead. Now, one thing we're going to do on the show this week is we're going to do Scandal of the Week.
Right.
Because it just seems all these guys are giving up their $30, $40, $50 million a year jobs because they're, embroiled in these sexual controversies. Well, the Scandal of the Week, and here's my New York Post. I'll hold it up.
And you can count on this every week.
Week.
We have to eliminate certain ones because there's just so many.
Scandal of the Week. 2 executives from the Buffalo Bills get fired over having an affair. It's just unbelievable. I mean, these companies have these policies. Everybody signs them. And everybody gets busted on him. Last week was the guy that gave up his salary of $110 million for having an affair. This week, these two people from the Buffalo Bills get fired, and they're making millions and millions of dollars, and they just continue to do this. Sex is just so powerful.
You know what I think was the final straw?
What?
Buffalo got that. They had to play that away game in London.
Yeah, and I think that's where they got caught, in London.
London, the final.
That's where they did get caught.
So the final straw is when you get that away game that's out of the country, and you think, okay, let's really enjoy ourselves, and that's where they got busted.
And both these people are married, and then there's the rumors about the governor of South Dakota, right?
Right.
Christine.
That's not even. That's not a gnome. That's not even a rumor. That's like a fact.
I mean, it's all around us. It's just sex is running the United States of America and work environment and people. Another segment we're going to, these are just 2 5-minute fun things every week.
And things are bad when you got Senator Fetterman on the late night talk show, and he had to sit there and say, "We're just not putting quality people in office."
It looks like he's coming out of his stroke better, though.
He is.
He seems
now you get to see the real him, though.
But we want to talk about the winners and the losers of the week.
Right.
Who do you have this week as winners, Govy?
As winners, I have Hunter Biden because he's off the news right now.
Right.
So Hunter Biden, but first of all, his investigation's on hold because the House is just fucking up where they can't even get a leader. So he's on hold. He just can't. He's pinching.
Okay, well, since we're on that subject, somebody does owe me $1. All
right.
Shout out to my buddy Shotlin, who last week Shotlin called me every day. Well, it looks like you lost a bet, Cutler. I mean,
I have it. I'll give it to you.
Govy's going to win the bet. Right now, it looks like Steve Scalise is and then the next day he calls me. He says, "Okay, you're going to lose the bet. It's Jim Jordan."
It could still be Jim Jordan, but it's
Doesn't
the time
matter.
frame. Right,
The week's over. I win my money.
It's
I win my
unbelievable. I
money.
agree with you. I don't understand how it's like, and when someone
did you see they just had a vote? He lost by 20 votes.
And what's crazy is that you have people that are saying I am not running, and then the people vote for the person that actually says I'm not running. So they're just taking their vote and throwing in the toilet. And I think what's going to have to happen is I think Donald Trump's going to have to come out and say, if you don't vote for somebody right now that we can get it done, I'm going to campaign against you. I'm going to make it where you lose your seat in the House. Somebody has to put them where they're scared of losing their seat. But right now, that's where Hunter Biden is the lucky guy.
So these are the winners of the week. You have Hunter Biden
is one.
You have Mendez. What's his head?
Menendez is
he's a winner.
I mean, this guy was stone cold. He would have been on the news every day between him and his wife. You have the drug cartels in Mexico that are just sending in people. They are now so daring that they're sending in Middle East people. They're daring enough that they're finding Syrians coming in. We have no idea who's coming in there. So they're the winners also.
Donald Trump's a winner because the CEO of whatever bank he was dealing with, Credit Suisse or something, came in and testified and said they made all their money back. He never defaulted. He was great. And
he showed that he had disclosures on all his papers that said, do your due diligence and, get your own people to see what.
Right. And I think he was a loser because he was hoping Michael Cohen was going to come into court, his lawyer accuser, and he was going to stare him down with that evil mugshot stare, but he was a no-show.
Right.
He was a no-show. So who are our losers for the week? I forget. I guess, obviously, Hamas is a loser. Israel's a loser. Joe Biden's a loser. I mean, we do have some losers this week.
I mean,
unfortunately, somebody we all love.
How about Ivy League colleges?
But unfortunately, we lost Suzanne Summers this week.
Right.
And Suzanne Summers is...
she's an interesting person. It's funny. It goes to show you our age right now. But she was big
your age,
in
yeah.
my age. But she was big in our age, and a lot of people only know her maybe as the Thigh Master girl or like an infomercial. But Suzanne Summers, besides being had the #1 comedy show during the time in the '70s. She stood up for women's equality, and they fired her over that when she was like one of the
Three's Company.
Three's Company, and then people don't realize that she wrote 24 books, 17 New York Times bestsellers, and 300 million Thigh Masters.
No, she sold $300 million worth.
$300 million worth
of the Thigh Master, which it's unbelievable. I guess they have them in the gym now. If you go in the gym, these Thigh Masters are there, and $300 million worth. So when she was fired and replaced on Three's Company, you thought it was curtains for her, but she created a whole new career for herself. She was gorgeous, and she believed in this holistic medicine, and she ended up with breast cancer and wouldn't do conventional treatment.
But it kept her alive for 17 years.
17 years.
So that's really
so
sad.
Unfortunately, we did lose her this week. So every week we want to talk about winners and losers, and if any of our 21,000 listeners right now want to, send in any winners or losers of the week, we'll take recommendations, and hopefully next week the Phillies are winners, right?
That would be nice.
They can go on.
And Eagles play the Miami Dolphins on Sunday night.
Oh, that's a great game.
Sunday night.
Yeah. Is that here in Miami?
It's in Philly.
Oh, it's in Philly. Wow.
It's going to be a little cold.
We should go up for that game. We probably couldn't get tickets. That will be an unbelievable game. Who's the favorite in that? It has to be the Eagles. Home advantage. Dolphins are good though. Well, anyway, let's go on to this Israel thing, and
we can go into that. First thing I would like to start off is we have an FBI and we have a Department of Justice, and all you hear of for the last several months, you hear the FBI Director Wray, you hear the Department of Justice in Garland, and all they say is the United States' biggest fear is domestic terrorism. And they were investigating parents at school board meetings. They infiltrated the churches to see what's going on there. They basically spent so much money on seeing if a little old lady from Kansas stuck her big toe into the Capitol on January 6th that we had to make sure we tracked her down and prosecuted her. Yet all this time, you have Jake Sullivan getting up there telling people 1 week before the terrorism attack took place. He's basically saying things have never been as good in the Middle East. It's been it's the best it's been in 20 years.
So Jake Sullivan is our national security advisor, right?
National security advisor.
So he's the smartest guy in government in terms of terrorism. He should know precisely what's going on in the world.
And the guy's bragging how great. He's not even spending that much time on it because, hey, things are great. Best in 20 years. Meanwhile, this attack that they planned wasn't like a 4-hour attack. They planned this for months and months.
2 years, I think.
2 years.
Right.
So this is what's going on under his nose. Meanwhile, we should be the FBI. I would feel much better if you told me that they were investigating every single person from the Middle East that came into our border that we caught or didn't catch. Let's try to find them. Then how about every single person that is demonstrating that you see right now, that Hamas? If you're for Hamas, that's different than Palestine. So if you're for Hamas, you are for a terrorist organization. Why aren't we investigating everybody that is for Hamas? It's completely different than saying for Palestine. And it's amazing that 22 years ago, it was we had people that took down our World Trade Towers that were a terrorist organization. Now all of a sudden we're celebrating them. We're marching down the streets celebrating people that can take down our World Trade Towers. I just don't understand it.
Well, now we have all these protests on college campuses, and just like they did with the January 6th, where they were able to identify every single person that went into the Capitol. We have these giant hedge fund guys like Bill Ackman, who's saying, if you defended the Hamas on these campuses, you went to Harvard
and signed your name,
we're not going to hire you. And we obviously now the precedent is set based upon the January 6th commission that they can identify all these people. You can find them.
Right.
Doesn't matter if they have masks; they can identify them through their eyes or their hair. I mean, look at you. If you were wearing a mask, everybody would know it with that hair, right? Is that a wig or is that real? No, that's real. Let me pull it. Let me just see.
But what's crazy is. They're losing. How about the people that are in law school right now? They already had they got their jobs rescinded. The ones that were going to be hired from Harvard and from Columbia, they got their.
So the actual law firms are rescinding their.
Right now, today they rescinded 5 people that had jobs because it doesn't reflect the law firm that they're coming to, and they want a workplace environment, not to have a person that is actually for the terrorists.
Well, I'd like to meet some of these people. Maybe we could find some of them to come on the show. I'd like to have an intellectual discussion with them. The other night I was at Capitol Grill over here in Boca Raton eating dinner, and next to me I'm talking next to a young lady, and she's trying to tell me it's a giant conspiracy, that no planes actually hit the towers. It was like photoshopped on TV. And when they built these towers, they put demolitions in the girders so that any one time during the lifetime of these buildings, they could take them down. And she truly believed no planes hit these towers. I mean, there's people walking around that think this stuff. And she's saying that it's impossible that the Hamas killed these 40 babies. It didn't happen. It's all a conspiracy theory that these 40 babies, and the people that actually saw the photographs and have stories about it, the stories are so horrific. They're saying they didn't kill the baby, they didn't kill the mothers first. Mm-hmm. They killed the babies in front of the mothers. That's how horrific it is.
Well, I think,
and so the point that I'm just saying is, I would like to meet one of these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas people on these campuses, and I would like to sit as close as I am to you and have them explain to me, truthfully, how you can defend these people.
Because they're brainwashed, and it's hard when someone is like brainwashed to get through to them. But I blame part of the brainwashing on David Muir for ABC World News Tonight. I got this David Muir, like the other night, because whoever breaks the news to you first and how you get your news, sometimes you already make up your mind. So, for instance, Hamas fired a missile that went into their own hospital. And the first thing they did was blame Israel for taking down their hospital, when in reality, today, they have the actual audio, of the terrorists saying that they did it. And you have the actual video showing that they did it, but yet they blamed it on Israel. That's all people need. In Palestine, in Lebanon, the embassies are taking place in the West Bank. Things are going crazy. That's because they already heard. Once they hear David Muir or someone say Israel might have taken down a hospital by accident, they don't want to hear anything else. So when you have Tlaib, our Congressperson Tlaib, and Omar, they basically said it was Israel. Now all of a sudden they're not going to take back their tweet. They're going to leave it up there, even though they were wrong.
It's even worse than that, because our president, Joe Biden, got on Air Force One, flew across the world to meet with these foreign leaders, Benjamin Netanyahu, the King of Jordan, the head of Saudi Arabia, and they all canceled on him because of this hospital bombing. They believed it as well, or whether they
feel like they have to. They don't want to, because it came out, they don't want to make like they're taking Israel's side, so they can't. But I think what's really important is, we were discussing, I would like you to explain how China is involved in this. People might think, oh, this is a Middle East thing. Tell me your opinion on why you think China is involved with Biden. What do they have to do with this?
Okay, I have my own conspiracy theory. I'm a conspiracy person here. I believe. So let's go back to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. It has been proven that Hunter Biden worked for China, took money from China. There's 21 deposits or whatever, bank transfers from China. They have yet to find the smoking gun tying Joe Biden into Hunter Biden getting money, other than the fact that Hunter says he's paying the big guy's bills, and Hunter is saying, I'm supporting my father, and Hunter was in meetings with Joe Biden and his China counterparts in business and Burisma. So now we know there's a connection between Hunter Biden and China. And we're saying, by extension, Joe Biden and China. So I'm saying Joe Biden's in the tank. Joe Biden is being paid off by China. He is beholden to China. Now China is beholden to Iran, and that's how Iran got the $70 billion in cash, because they're selling China all their oil. China had at a big discount because of the sanctions, to work around the sanctions, right, and criminally sell the oil to China.
So they're the big buyer from Iranian oil.
They're the big buyer of Iranian oil, and they are beholden to Iran. And Iran, if they cut the oil off from China, China needs...
Their economy tanks. Well, it's already hurting, but it could really put China into a box.
So now, to further complicate the conspiracy theory, we have the University of Pennsylvania Biden Center, right, which was where his vice presidential papers were hidden, one of the big spots. And University of Pennsylvania is allowing these protests. And University of Pennsylvania, my son went there. I just received a letter from the president because I used to give them some donations, which I'm not anymore. Defending their position of the protesters and basically saying that, they're not using the word Iran. So you take all this complicated conspiracy theory, and I'm saying Joe Biden's in the tank for China, and China's all over Iran and defending Iran. So therefore, Joe Biden is complicit with Iran, and that's why this is.
That's why he lifted the sanctions. By the way, today.
So let's stay on that. So when Donald Trump was president of the United States, he imposed these gigantic sanctions on Iran, where
they can't sell oil.
Can't sell, choking them off. He was financially crushing them.
Right.
As soon as Biden came in, he lifted those sanctions where they were allowed to sell oil to China. Or
right, they did.
Even if they weren't allowed, they were doing it, and nobody was crushing them. So I think this is the problem that we're having. It's almost like, a football game where every time we get the ball, the referee calls a penalty on us. And I think
Or China could say, listen, Joe, I'm not going to go into Taiwan right now but I just want you to lay off of Iran right now.
Yeah, or make a deal with Joe, because Joe's in the tank with China, and he has to make a deal. And I think that's why he went to Israel in the last 2-3 days. He wanted
to stop.
To stop. Israel was on the border with 300,000 kids, troops, to invade Gaza, and he stopped them by going over there, because they couldn't invade Gaza with the president of the United States, most powerful man in the world,
and not only that,
Air Force One on the
and
tarmac.
Now they have it that after Joe leaves, they have these other world leaders coming. Macron wants to come, and they want to have all these different world leaders keep visiting Israel so they can keep delaying going over there. So maybe they can buy another 2-3 weeks.
Right, which by then the momentum's gone. But I look. Our 121,000 listeners are not going to agree with me, but this is my position, and then I'd love to hear yours.
But going back to what you were just saying, what's interesting is all these donors to, like, say, Penn and these Ivy League schools. It's interesting because, like, you get Huntsman, for instance, it's
John Huntsman.
John Huntsman,
former ambassador to China, I think.
Right, and there's what was he as a governor of Utah?
And then he had a super hot daughter too, didn't he?
Yeah.
No, he did have.
He did. Yeah. She still does. He still does. And you know,
and she has 30 to 50 million in liquid cash.
Yeah, and they're done giving to Penn, and you got a lot of other big time donors are stopping giving to Penn. But what people don't understand about Penn is China is giving so much money to Penn,
right?
That they don't really care about these donors. They're basically like nodding their head, okay. All right, we're sorry, we're not taking, but it doesn't make a difference because China is making up all the shortfalls and giving them the money. Just like, for instance, Joe Biden got paid $1 million to teach a course which he never taught.
Right.
But China gave $17 million to Penn. So all they basically said to Penn is, take 16 for yourself, give one to Joe, and everything's good. Joe gets to pocket $1 million. It's basically laundering his money, and everybody's happy. And that's how China is like. That's why these donors really don't make that much of a difference to Penn. They're just so deep into China.
Well, Wharton School of Business has a tremendous amount of successful hedge fund guys. Many of them live down here in South Florida now.
They're waking up.
And they're not going to give to the University of Pennsylvania anymore because of, these protesters and what's going on. But this is what if you're asking me, and I'm advising the President of the United States or Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, this is what I believe they should do. So unfortunately, we have 140, 150 hostages in these tunnels, and they're probably dead, tortured, half dead, or whatever already.
Or wish they were dead. We have 300,000 Israeli kids on the border ready to go in there. And every one of these guys on TV that was a former colonel, military, head of the Air Force, head of the Navy SEAL guy says it's brutal. Hand-to-hand combat, going door to door. We're going to lose so many of our soldiers. This is what I think they should do. They've been successful so far. Targeting the Hamas leaders and bombing them. They've killed 6 of them already with precise missiles. I think they should flood the tunnels. I mean, throw millions of gallons of water down in the tunnels and flood them. Well, blow them up. You can't make it where...
Yeah, flood them or blow it up. Israel should say to the United States of America, give us $100 billion, and we won't go in there and destroy Gaza. We will use this money as I know these 1,300 Israelis who passed away, unfortunately. We'll never be able to bring them back, but get reparations, $100 billion.
But they got to rebuild Palestine. They have to rebuild Palestine right now, too. It's like right now it's rubble.
Yeah, that's another issue.
And you got to house these people. You got 2 million people there, so you. And by the way, no one wanted the Palestinians. Egypt closed their borders. Jordan closed their borders. So they have to live somewhere.
So at this point, what's the point of going in Gaza? We're going to lose 10 or 20,000 Israeli kids, soldiers. We're going to lose at least 10 or 20,000 of them. They're going to burn billions and billions of dollars worth of military equipment. They're going to destroy Gaza, and all the bad guys are gone already. They're in tunnels or they're in Switzerland somewhere. They're not there. And 2 million, like you say, there's 2 million immigrants. Where the hell are they going to go live?
And let's also be worried that we don't know how much Hezbollah has.
That's another issue.
Like they could be aiming at Tel Aviv, and we don't know that they've been maybe waiting for this for 5 years, being backed by Iran. How do you know that they don't take down buildings in Tel Aviv for the first time ever?
Right.
Now that they're guided missiles, that's different than, How do you know that Israel really doesn't take some major...
So this is the art of the deal. This is what Donald Trump would do. He would make a deal. He wrote 3 or 4 books on the art of the deal. Give me $100 billion for reparations. put the new sanctions back on Iran, America. I mean, where you choke them off. We're going to flood the tunnels and kill these people that are there now. Unfortunately, the
sanction just was lifted today. You know, one of Iran's, where they're allowed to send drones now to like Russia and Syria and Lebanon. They're allowed to.
Joe's in the tank for these guys. He's in the
how
tank.
can they be allowed to sell drones to Hamas right now? It got lifted today. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
So then put the sanctions back on Iran, get the $100 billion, flood the tunnels. Unfortunately, the hostages are I mean, I know if it's it's a horrific thought, but
does Israel kind of take over Palestine, where they have to put a new government in there? How can they be?
No, you're
going to live next door to a person that's.
I guess you have to figure some way that you're going to have surveillance. You're going to allow intense surveillance.
You got to put a new government in. You got to get rid of Hamas altogether.
But that never worked for any of these countries trying to take over another.
We haven't been in a war. Israel hasn't been in a war.
We tried to take over Afghanistan. We couldn't do it. We tried to prop up a government. We can't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It's only 20 miles. It's 23 miles long and it's 5 miles wide.
2 million people.
It's 2 million people. So you got to get rid of the Hamas and let the people live there without Hamas living around them. They will end up having a better life. Just get rid of the Hamas.
I guess it's a detail, and you're the detail guy. I'm not. You know, I'm looking 30,000 feet down.
You can't have a dictator living amongst them. You'll be right back to where it is.
I just don't think to take 20,000 kids and have them die and maimed, you know, to go into that shithole and try and destroy every fucking building in there for no reason.
They're ready right now. This is the first time think about this.
But the world's going to turn on Israel in another week.
But as of
look
right now,
what happened in this hospital.
Look how many
bombing.
Look how many American Jews are going over to Israel to fight right now. This is where the time has come.
But how is Israel going to win the PR campaign? You had a hospital that they weren't guilty of this, and already everybody in the world is against Israel.
Because now the people are going to wake up. For instance, how do they win it? You got a BLM. BLM, for all this time, when you heard people say, I can't breathe, and they had demonstrations, and everybody, Jews, they marched with them. They marched with the BLM movement. The BLM movement was on the back of every end zone in the NFL. It was on every basketball court. It was on the back of the helmets. People gave money and marched with them. And instead, BLM now is basically making a mockery of Jews and having paratroopers with the sign of the paratroopers coming in, and that they're for Hamas. I mean, that's going to end up.
Well, can you only imagine? Let's say there's 10,000 protesters outside or inside of Harvard or University of Pennsylvania or Stanford, and they're screaming, "Kill the Jews! Kill every Jew! Destroy Israel." Can you imagine if those 10,000 people were saying, kill all the African Americans, kill all the black people? What would happen in America? America would burn down. There would be riots. I mean, are people
how about the hostages?
Are people paying attention to what these protesters are saying and saying, if those protesters were saying, kill every Italian, kill every Irish
because
person,
they look at Jews differently, as you can see.
I don't understand
you have.
Do we have horns or something?
Well, you got hostages that are American. So if it was 120 Italian Americans that were hostage somewhere, we would do everything we can. If it was 120 African Americans, we would do everything we can. But these are 120 Americans, Jewish Americans, and it's like basically, well, another day went. Joe Biden is actually in the area where the hostages are, and he's getting back on a plane, turning around saying, I did the best I could. I mean, nothing.
No, yeah.
I mean, he didn't get any hostages. I mean, he went there and came back with nothing.
So politically, is this considered a failed mission and it's egg on his face?
To me, it is. He flew
did
to
say
Israel.
He would back him. He would give him
But
money.
he didn't come back with anything.
Right.
I mean, he didn't come back with anything. What's he throwing? He's throwing again $100 million to the Palestinians for aid, but they already Hamas stole it. So, you know, again, it's Jews are just Jews are waking up, seeing who their friends are. They're seeing who's coming to their defense. They're seeing how Hollywood is quiet. They're seeing celebrities that actually have PR firms that work for them, and yet they'll come out and
Alicia Keys.
Well, I don't want to, yeah, she would be one. She got dressed up in an outfit, and she made someone with power trip. Just run it through your PR firm before you do something that you can't take it back. Everybody that tries to walk back something, you can't walk back something, and then you get to see who they are. That's all. It's exposed. And you really get to see the silence is just incredible.
But don't you fault, Govy, these institutions that are supposed to teach these kids how to make it in life, that they're allowing I understand America is great because we have free speech, but I mean, it's so disturbing that there's so many protests.
We saw it coming. Everybody saw it. A lot of people that are liberal, they saw it in the schooling just now, even during COVID. We saw what the teachers were teaching the kids in school. Well, that starts off in elementary school, goes to middle school, goes to high school, and then when they get to college, you wonder why that they're demonstrating for Hamas, and like it's a shock to you. They were just brought up with all this other stuff. What's so crazy is all the people that are for LGBTQ plus whatever, go up and see how they would be treated by Palestinians. Forget Hamas, just Palestinians, how they would be treated. They wouldn't have free speech. They'd be killed. They'd be pushed off of a building.
And again, I reiterate my comment. If there were 10,000 protesters at all these different institutions and they're screaming, kill the Jew, instead of kill the Jews, they're screaming, kill the Italians, kill the blacks, kill the Irish. I mean, can you imagine the uproar in America? But yet nobody's standing up for the Jews other than the Jewish people that are standing up.
But there's also laws in place, like Senator Cotton, he wants them to honor the law that's up there right now. There's a law that if you're in the United States and you are a foreign national and you're not an American and you are for, say, Hamas, for a terrorist organization that is being recognized as a terrorist organization, you can't protest in our country. It's against the law. Kick them out of the country. They have no business being in our country getting an Ivy League education, which, by the way, an Ivy League education, might not see it now. You might not see it this year. You might not see it next year, where the Ivy League schools are going to feel the effect of what took place this week and the last week. Will be 5 years from now, because they're going to start seeing the people that are being enrolled in these schools. I know your son went to Penn, but you watch how many people will not let their kid go to Penn or go to Harvard or go to Columbia. They're going to say go to somewhere else. Go to Brandeis. Go to another school that you can go to.
Well, I remember my two older kids went to Columbia, and at the commencement service, you know, I'm looking around campus, and there's nothing but employees of the school leaning against the building. I mean, professors, and all they're doing, so many people standing around, nobody was working. And I wanted to go up to them and say to them, you know, that building will stand there. You don't have to lean against it to hold it up. Maybe you should go do something and work something. But the problem that we're having, Govy, is that the Republicans are as bad as the Democrats. Look at what's going on in the House of Representatives. It's a disgrace that they can't get a speaker. They can't open the House. They can't keep the federal government going. They can't fund these wars. I mean...
So do you think right now, the politicians, do you think with our border and everything, do you think they're doing a good job keeping us safe? Do you feel safe? Or do you think a terrorist attack is going to happen to the United States?
You know, I'm just a dummy, and I'm so confused. I mean, you know, is the FBI on the straight up and up with all this stuff with Donald Trump? All the dossier and everything was fake. Is this? Who even knows if we're safe? A bomb could go, and unfortunately, with the 600 or 800 Iranians that came in across the border, and all these people from these 26 other countries that came, who knows what the hell is going to happen?
One reason
here.
why I think someone like Donald Trump is going to probably win the election is everybody gets to see how Joe Biden is right now. And all I know is if someone wants to go on a platform and say, we got to know who's in this country right now. And if you don't belong in this country, since 94% of all the people that came here are not going to really don't qualify, but we just can't let them have their court date for 4 or 5 years. If someone says we got to send them back to where they came from, we have to vet them, we have to know who's in this country. That's one way to feel safer. So that's if
I
Donald,
think we're very unsafe.
If Donald Trump makes you feel safer, all I know is Russia did not invade Ukraine under his watch. The Middle East was calm. Iran, he took out the leader in Iran. I mean, he made you feel safe. Right now, Joe Biden can't even get Saudi Arabia, the prince, is laughing at him. Literally. He tries to fist bump him after he begs for oil. So I think we have to have energy independence.
Well, I think they all know he's compromised. I think BLM, what's the guy, Saudi Arabia, MLB or whatever his name is?
Yeah, the big thing is Joe Biden.
Ben, what's the guy's name in Saudi Arabia? The head of Saudi Arabia, MBS or something?
Yeah, it could be. But let me ask you a question. When Joe Biden says, and they ask him 3 different times, and they say, okay, and he says, don't. What would you do if another agent comes in and he says, don't? Well, what happens where they do? Is he prepared? Is he prepared to cross the red line and do something?
No. And I don't know if you saw that Instagram. You know who Sammy the Bull Gravano is?
Sure.
He's the underboss of John Gotti, and he's in the witness protection program, but he does a podcast like us. He's not as popular as us, and he said that, right now the Democratic Party is trying their best, with these cases against Donald Trump to make sure that he's not elected. But if Donald Trump beats it, he thinks that they'll take him out. They will not let him be president of the United States. Yeah.
It could be. They've done everything. They've done everything else.
They're going to try and take him out so that he doesn't become president again. Because I agree with you. All these things, he will come into that office like a wild man.
A group of people are also lost out that are the losers of the week and everything.
They're on the losers of the week list.
The United Auto Workers, because no one gives a shit about them right now. They're out there and it's getting a little cold, and no one even gives a crap about them. They're going to freeze out there before anybody cares about their electric cars.
Right. No, I mean, think about it. You drive by these car lots now. There's so many cars on the lots. I mean, the dealers have plenty of inventory.
I mean, you got hostages are being held in there, and they got someone on the picket line that wants $100 an hour when Tesla's making $44 an hour.
Right. Car loans are 10% or 12%. Nobody can buy a car, and
where's Piss Pot Pete now, huh?
Yeah. Why do these auto workers think they have leverage? I have no idea.
By the way, how about this transportation to get the Americans out of Israel? How about that they had to pay their own way to get back?
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, it happened in Afghanistan, it happened in Ukraine. You would think we would be good at rescuing Americans by now, since it's happening all the time. But imagine how the dysfunction that the one kid that was home today, that the congressman from Florida got him home, and basically they called him and said, okay, we're ready for you now. And he goes, I'm home now.
Well, do you see Vivek Vasami or whatever his name is? Yeah. He did pay for a charter flight. He did bring, and then DeSantis, I think.
He sent his.
He's saying his.
But I mean, how does the United States not send it? I mean, it's crazy. They're going to pay their own way to get home.
It's just crazy.
Anyway.
Well, Govy, we are running out of time. I just want to remind our audience that we're on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Apple. We have our website, cuttyandgovy.com, where you can certainly buy these great shirts, these mugs. I don't think we have hats, do we?
No, not yet. We should get hats.
We got to get hats because we'll
good
wear
6-panel hats.
Yeah.
G-Force hats.
Will we get the ones that get to adjust the size for our big heads, or will they?
Yeah, we could do that. Good G-Force
No, we
hats.
want the ones with the adjustable thing in the back so it can fit our large heads, from being podcast superstars. Anyway, we appreciate everybody listening. Govy and I took both sides of the issue today. It was a spirited discussion. You have his picks.
Sure, there'll be a lot that will happen.
The Giants game is an interesting pick. But we'll see what happens.
And let's see if the world's safe for another week.
Do you think we'll be back next week? I think on the list of cities these terrorists are going to come after, I think Boca Raton and Delray Beach are pretty far down the list. I think they're going to come after somebody else before us. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
'Cause I'm only